Have you ever felt like you were meant to move forward but fear held you back? Maybe it sounds like, what if it happens again? What if I fail? Or even, who am I to do this? I understand that feeling because I've experienced it. In this episode, I'm sharing how fear once prevented me from stepping into what God intended for me, and how I ultimately discovered the courage to move forward, even while I was still afraid. If you have ever felt stuck, uncertain, or anxious about your next step, this message is for you. Hey family, welcome back to If Only One Overcomes. I'm Katie Lee, and I'm so glad you're here. If you're joining for the first time, welcome. This podcast is all about overcoming challenges, healing, and stepping into the life that God has for you. Last week, we talked about how healing is not a straight path and how setbacks don't mean you're failing. Today, we're going even deeper because one of the biggest factors that keep people stuck in their healing journey is fear. Fear of what's ahead, fear of what people will say, fear of getting hurt again. But today, we're going to break free from that fear and take back our power. Fear is a natural emotion, but when it begins to dictate our decisions, delay our obedience, or distort our views of ourselves or God, it becomes a stronghold. We have to understand fear and its hold on us. Fear has a way of keeping us from moving forward. It whispers, what if you fail? What if you get hurt again? What if you're not strong enough? But fear is a liar. It's a tool that the enemy uses to keep us from walking in faith. Here are some common fears that hold us back. Fear of repeating the past, fear of stepping into the unknown, fear of not being ready, and fear of losing control. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind." Psalms 56:3 says, "When I am afraid, I put my trust in you." You see, the subtle ways fear shows up, it doesn't always look like panic. Sometimes it sounds like overthinking, self-sabotage, perfectionism, or procrastination. Fear can mask itself as protection. I'm not ready. I'm being cautious. God hasn't given me a green light. When deep down, it's not waiting, it's worry. Here are 4 ways fear can take root. 1. Past traumas. Example, failed relationships, rejections, business loss. 2. Broken trust, the fear of believing again. When someone you loved, relied on, or believed in breaks that trust, it doesn't just hurt, it shakes your foundation. Broken trust not only makes you cautious, it can make you fearful of vulnerability altogether. Fear of being let down again, used again, believing again. You may start saying things like, I'll never let someone else get that close again. I'm better off doing it alone. I trust before, and look where it got me. And slowly you begin to build walls you call boundaries. But they're really prisons that fear built. Who broke your trust? And are you protecting yourself from people or from healing? Broken trust from people may shake us, but it does not undo the trustworthiness of God. Even when people fail you, God never will. Deuteronomy 31:6. 3. Unexpected grief. There's a grief that catches you off guard, the kind you didn't prepare for, the kind you didn't see coming. Unexpected grief can come from a miscarriage you hadn't told anyone about, the sudden loss of a job or a home, a friendship that faded without warning, the loss of a dream that never happened, someone you thought would always be there, and then they weren't. Grief like that teaches your nervous system to brace for disappointment. So instead of reaching forward in faith, we freeze, because in the back of our minds, we whisper, what if I lose something else? Even when grief catches you off guard, it never surprises God. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. Psalms 34:18. So, what have you lost that you still haven't allowed yourself to grieve? 4. feeling like God didn't show up the way you hoped. Fear thrives in uncertainty, but faith says, even when I don't know what's next, I trust the one who does. Yes, fear thrives in uncertainty, but faith overcomes it. Fear and faith cannot occupy the same space. The more we feed fear, the less we operate in faith. Faith is a forward motion. Let's talk about Peter stepping out of the boat. He didn't wait until the winds calmed. Action doesn't mean absence of fear. It means God's presence is greater than the fear. Here are a few practical ways to push past fear. Journaling fears. Name the fear out loud and shine a light on it, and then replace it with the truth. Speak affirmations over yourself. Surrender the outcome. Stop trying to control the what ifs. Take small steps forward instead of waiting for the perfect moment. One small step is an obedient step forward in faith, not perfection. What's one thing you know God is calling you to, but fear keeps talking you out of it? There were moments in my life when I was terrified to move forward. Fear told me I wasn't strong enough. But God had to remind me that His strength is made perfect in my weakness. Isaiah 41:10 says, "Do not fear, for I am with you. I will strengthen you and help you." Okay, overcomers, I have to share something with you. A few years ago, God spoke something deeply to my heart. He said, "I want you to comfort and encourage those who are hurting and in need of healing, the same way I comfort and encourage you." And I'll be honest, I was scared. I questioned everything. I said, "Lord, I don't speak well. I'm not known. Who's going to listen to me?" So I ran. I hid. I did something else for a few years. And if I'm being real, it felt like being in the belly of a whale. I was out of alignment, not helping others, and honestly, not even helping myself. But the truth is, I wasn't stuck. I was scared. And fear had me believing that what God called me to do couldn't possibly come through someone like me. But since starting this podcast and building the If Only One Overcomes community, I feel lighter, I feel aligned, and I feel like I'm finally walking in what God whispered into my spirit years ago. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't have it all figured out. This is still a learning as I'm going kind of process. But the difference is, I'm going, and I'm not stopping, because I know my story is a survival guide for someone else's healing, and I'm not starting from scratch. I'm starting from purpose, and I'm finally ready to share it. Listen, I understand fear can be paralyzing, especially when you're trying to move forward after pain. But fear is a thief. It steals our peace, our purpose, and our progress. But here's the truth. Fear only has power if we let it. Fear does not have the final say. Faith does. God will go before you. Even when you feel uncertain, you are not moving forward alone. You don't have to feel ready to move forward. You just have to trust that God is with you. Well, overcomers, we are at the end. I want you to take one step this week, just one that moves you out of fear into faith, whether it's starting that conversation, filling out that application, or just praying for courage. Do something that reminds fear that it has no power over you. Next week, we'll be talking about self-sabotage, how we sometimes block our own healing, and how to break that cycle for good. And remember, you are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are an overcomer. And your life is too important because God has a plan and a purpose for your life. Until the next episode, God bless.